Good morning, everybody. Good early morning. It's Monday morning, and we're doing this early because this is a different week than normal. Although here at Dice Tower, we don't have a ton of normal weeks, but this week we'll play it live, which is all week long, starting at 10 a.m. today and going through. We're going to be playing games live here in the Dice Tower, just whatever we feel like playing. So who knows? So yeah, stick around for that. I mean, we're still doing Board Game Breakfast at 9, so that starts at 10. So I'm doing Q&A earlier, and so questions here. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask them in the comments, and I will do what I can to answer them. For the 16 of you watching currently. I do know it's earlier, and I apologize if you come onto this later and go, what? I missed it. It was normally at noon. Yeah, well, we'll be playing games live at noon, so hopefully you'll enjoy that then. So yeah, it was a good weekend. I played a really terrible game. I played a really fantastic expansion. A lot of cool different things that are out there. Any update on the Trey Parker top 10? I'm currently working it out with him on dates. He's a very busy person, but once we have it set up date-wise, I will let you know. But yeah, like I said, just I'm talking to him, and we're figuring out the best time to do it. Let's see here. Well, that's true. It's going to be a while here before I get any more questions. So let's see. Like I said, good weekend. Played some new games. Played through a couple puzzle-style games. I did a ton of reviews last week that are going up. Some are going up at the end of this week, and some are going up next week. I'm working ahead because the Dice Tower Retreat, sponsored by Arcane Wonders, is happening in 2 weeks from today. Top 10 spooky games that are not in the horror board game geek category. Actually, I'm not going to do that right now, but I don't even know what that means. What's a spooky game that's not in the horror game? If it's a spooky game, wouldn't it be horror? There's not many spooky games anyway. Board games are very rarely spooky. There's a few. How's all the other Dice Tower Kickstarter stuff going? I'll be posting an update later this week, and essentially the word is we're working on it. It's almost all the stuff. The physical stuff is almost all ready to be shipped, but there are problems with a few things. It's the way of the thing right now that we're waiting on some stuff to get done and finished, but we should be able to ship stuff very soon, and all the stretch goals and stuff. Anyway, I'm doing a whole update on that on the thing, but I'm pretty happy with where we're at. I mean, except for the fact that we're behind, but most Kickstarters are. Any review coming for Blood Money? No, we don't have this expansion, so not currently. Did I go see Dune this weekend? I did go see Dune. We saw it yesterday. The whole Dice Tower, not the whole Dice Tower, but most of the Dice Tower went and saw it. An extended Dice Tower. A lot of people, some people from our gaming group went with us. We had a really good time watching it and enjoyed it. I'll probably review it on Board Game Breakfast next week, so I'll save my complete thoughts for then. Have you guys at least decided on what your tattoos will be? No, I keep waffling whether it will be the Dice Tower or my Dice Guy. I am in contact with a tattoo artist, so we're setting that up too. Letters from Whitechapel. I don't consider or Guillotine. No, I don't consider either of those spooky games. I mean, I guess they're horrific games in the sense that the events in them are horrible. But if we go down that route, then a lot of war games are going to be in that one, and I might put any political game in there. But yeah, that's just they're like the events in them are terrible. I don't know that I would want to do a top 10 list on that because it's just not very. That's not a fun top 10 list at all. Any new thoughts on Fury of Dracula? No, I don't know what that means. Like, I haven't thought about Fury of Dracula since I played it last. Any chance you can pick a game or two that are super blinged out for this week's live plays? Probably not. I mean, some of the games are going to look super. One of the games we're playing definitely will look super blinged out because it is from the base game. But you'll see. You'll just see what we play. We got a bunch of games that we're thinking about playing. It's going to be super casual, but I don't even know what the first game is yet. The guys are picking it out. They're going to play it starting at 10. And I do know what the second game is going to be, but you'll have to come back and see it there. I mentioned Camilla is joining the Dice Hour in some capacity. Camilla will be joining us for many of our live plays. In fact, you'll see her throughout this week on some of these live plays that we're doing over the course of the week. And then she's just helping out on other behind-the-scenes administrative stuff. Is there any late-night gaming at a ridiculous hour in a Dice Tower cruise like 3 a.m.? I think there has been, but I'm not up that late, so I wouldn't know. Any games that you initially hated but now love? No, I don't think so. I don't think there's a game I hate it but now love. I don't think I've ever had a swing that strong. There are games I didn't think much of at the time, but I've come around to really liking them. But I can't think of any game I hate it but now love. Which do you like better, Wingspan or photosynthesis? As a heads up, I don't answer these questions on here normally. Instead, you got to wait for our top 100 list, which will go up this January, and see if one of them is on there and above the other one. And you can actually just go back to my last top 100 and do that too. With a larger family, do you have a go-to game or a type of game that you play all together? Well, of course, party games work for everybody. Does Z even have to dignify that video last week with a response? No. If anything, that solidified his place as the voice of the people. Well, the voice of some people, I'm sure. Any chance to print Domain or Lowenhertz for Dice Tower Essentials? I don't think, first of all, Lowenhertz would 100% would not sell now. Straight up. I don't think Domain would sell that much. I love the game. I don't think it would sell that well. The one thing that people really don't think about a lot of times is the people. You know, someone just mentioned that Z was the voice of the people, but people don't think about the larger general public. What happens is this, and again, Chris, I'm not dunking on you here necessarily, but people think, oh man, I really want this game. It's really out of print. People are clamoring for it. If only some company would print it, that company would make oodles of money. That's 100% not true, because it's not 100%, but it's in a 90% or higher. Games that are out of print for a while that get reprinted by a company sell very little. Sometimes they sell okay, and they never become gangbuster hits, and they never become huge things, with, again, rare exceptions. An exception I could think of is Netrunner. When Fantasy Flight remade it as Android Netrunner, that did really well. Downforce from Restoration Games. That was a reprint of an older racing game. That one did really well. I think Survive for Stronghold Games did very well. But for the most part, you see these older games, they get reprinted, everyone gets excited, this game is coming back, they play it, and it might sell a few thousand copies, and then we move on. So that's really where Domain would be. I would be surprised if Domain would sell more than 3,000 copies. And that's a lot of work you put into a game for that few of copies. So again, I love the game, but whenever I look at games for Dice Tower Essentials, I think of a couple things. I really love the game. I think people should get it. And I also think people will buy it. So Domain would be on the edge there. I just don't think it would sell that well. Do you know all of the Marvel Dice Throne characters at this point? Yeah, I think so. I was told them at one point, but they'll be revealed at some point somewhere. When you receive a board game from a publisher, does it often come with a review embargo, somewhere like movie reviewers get when they go to a screening? Sometimes. Here's what's funny. The people who do embargoes are the biggest companies and the smallest companies. The small ones always make me laugh because they send me a review and they'll say, do not talk about this till whenever date. And I'm thinking, okay. But it's probably going to be a while before we're going to talk about it anyway. Just not going to get to the table. The bigger ones, I'm trying to think who has given me embargo dates. Asmodee does occasionally with their big games. Stonemaier definitely has embargo dates. And a few others have had embargo dates over the years. There's just various companies. I always try to follow embargo dates. We don't post a thing until afterwards. In fact, most of the time, if there's an embargo date, I won't post my video on that date. I'll wait a day or two because I know everyone else is going to post their video on that date, and I'd rather mine not necessarily be part of a huge pile. Also, I'm always clear to publishers, I don't work for you in that regard. So I really, really dislike when publishers give me a window. They'll be saying, it needs to be from November 4th to November 8th. I'm like, no, what are you talking about? Why are you telling me when to publish my review? We'll publish it when we can. We'll follow an embargo date, but don't give me a time frame to post it in. We're not an advertising extension, unless, of course, you're paying us to advertise your game. You know, we get paid to put these games in the background here. We're not trying to hide that. And then I always put one in the background that we don't get paid for. The Chronicles Crime is just there because I played it this weekend and it was fun. But, you know, and I try to mesh those things up, but we're also clear about stuff like that. But if it's a review, we post that when we can. Now, again, like I said, we follow embargo dates. I don't know necessarily that embargo dates matter that much for most games. Who cares? Except sometimes it matters. Like, for example, I know Marvel Dice Throne was under embargo because they were licensing and stuff from Marvel itself. So that makes sense, right? That there's an embargo date there, and a big companies, Riot Games, did it with their giant game, Mechs vs. Minions. So there have been different embargo dates, and when we get an embargo, I always try to mark it. Don't show this off early, whatever. You know, we try not to show it in videos. As the years have gone by, I have accidentally spoiled a couple things. I've done it 3 times. 2 I can talk about. 1, way years ago, I got Descent 2nd edition early. And I wasn't going to review it, of course. And I accidentally left it in the background of a couple videos of reviews. It was just sitting in the background as a box. Totally didn't notice it. And people did notice it. And the thing is, even though it was not great quality video then, it wasn't HD, it was lower quality, people zoomed in and stuff. I got a personal phone call from Christian Peterson about that one. I very much apologize. I didn't mean to do that. It wasn't a huge deal and probably worked well for Fantasy Flight in the long run, but that was an accident. The second one, which was not my fault, was Merchants of Venus, where Mr. Bonneker said we could break the news. He said I could do it at midnight, didn't specify what time, so I did it midnight my time. He was in Essen, he wasn't thinking about the timing. And then Christian Peterson, again, got involved and talked to him because they were actually publishing it, not Stronghold Games, because it was a very weird situation where they had gotten the rights from the publisher and Stronghold Games had gotten the rights from the designer. Fortunately, that one was resolved very well. So, and again, there's been things, and you know, I've had to write a few emails saying, I'm really sorry, I didn't mean to spoil this or whatever, but I try not to as best as I can. Again, I don't know that I love embargoes. Sometimes they're useful. Like, we got an embargo on Pandemic Legacy Season 0. That was months out from when we got the game, which let us leisurely play it so when we reviewed it, we were able to just review it like that. And I get that, but I found that embargo dates for companies, especially with big games, usually work in the company's benefit, because once they have an embargo date, then all the reviews go up on that date, and it's like this sudden blast. Sometimes it's too much. People get, everyone's talking about this game, it's too much. But it does work, right? It works really well. Now, if a lot of companies started, you know, if companies were sending me embargo dates all the time, it would get confusing, and I have to put like notes on the boxes, don't review until this date. As for now, it happens so infrequently that I write the games on our calendar because it happens that infrequently. If a lot of companies did it, again, I would just start delaying all my reviews past the embargo dates. All right, that was a much longer answer probably than you were expecting. Here's another idea. Top 10s that age well, beating the similar games that were released later and did not succeed in being better than the old gems. Maybe I'll do that someday. We'll see. You're playing Marvel Dice Throne later today, right? No, I'm not telling you what we're playing and when we're playing it. We're just playing whatever we want to play at any given point. You've mentioned being unsure about next year's Essen anticipation, perhaps a stretch goal in the upcoming Kickstarter. Straight up, it's going to be a stretch goal because going to Essen is that big of an expense. This year, we really struggled with our expenses. Part of it is that we moved in a new studio. We weren't expecting to have to do that. And then, of course, furnishing the new studio and just a whole lot of, there's been a lot of expenses this year. Dice Tower and then we didn't get any income from Dice Tower East. In fact, Dice Tower East lost us money. Dice Tower West didn't have any income this year. There's just a lot of things, and we're blessed. We haven't gone out of business yet, but definitely we are having to make some decisions as the year goes by. What's my favorite Halloween candy? I don't necessarily have any. Oh, well, those Reese's Pumpkins are really good. They're really good, those Reese's Pumpkins. I don't know. I don't eat a lot of candy at Halloween. Chance of a reprint of Lifeboats. Yeah, see previous response. Same exact thing. Lifeboats would not sell that well. Hero Quest did well, but also it had the power of Hasbro behind it. And also, it made $1 million some, right? And they're going to sell the copies, but it's really expensive to reprint and everything. And I don't think it's going to do that well post Kickstarter, but it's Hasbro Pulse. Tabanusi is on our schedule. Do you get a lot of trick-or-treaters in your neighborhood? A decent amount. And if so, what candy are you passing out this year? I'm not putting the effort into candy that I have put in the past. What I've done in the past is I go to Amazon and I look for all kinds of cool candies. Oh, no, actually, I haven't gone to Amazon. I went to candy stores online, and I ordered big piles of candy. And then I made bags of candy with really cool candy. Just different kinds of candy, like the cherry bombs and all kinds of neat stuff. I didn't want to do that this year because I didn't, with COVID and everything going on, I didn't want to have like a bag of candy that I gave people. I'm just giving pre-wrapped candy. So I just went online and looked. So I found something that I felt like wasn't at Walmart. I hate everyone gets the same kinds of candies. So I always look for something interesting, but also something that's not too expensive for me. I do not remember what it is. It's being shipped to my house as we speak. Where does Halloween fall in your top 10 holidays list? I don't know. I mean, Easter is my favorite holiday. Then Christmas. Easter, Christmas, Thanksgiving, they're the big three. I like all those better than Halloween. 4th of July I like better than Halloween. Memorial Day I like better than Halloween. That's 5 better than Halloween. I don't have a top 10 holidays. Those are just ones that I celebrate. Oh, New Year's is better than Halloween. It's fine. I'm not a huge Halloween guy. Should BGG add a weight rating for learning the rules alongside game complexity? No, I already hate their weight category. Why would I want a rules weight category? Perhaps Dice Tower could produce a database of their game weight ratings. No. No, not from me. Am I currently watching Survivor 41? I am, actually. In fact, I watched it. Not yesterday, but the day before. I'll tell you what, though, it was really interesting. As an aside, I was watching Survivor, and it was going through just playing them automatically. And I was playing an escape room or, doing something on the side. Survivor ended. Big Brother came on. I've never watched Big Brother before. And I was like, all right, I'll see what this is about. Wow. I cannot tell you how much I hate Big Brother. Whatever part of society that is not me. I just despised every part of it. Every part of it. I am not loving this Survivor. Some of the things I like, they're adding a lot of little new rules in. You know, all these different advantages and things that no one's actually using. And they also did something dumb, I thought, where they have this advantage where if 3 people say these weird phrases on different teams, but the phrases were so weird and out there that I thought it was, they should have picked something that was a little more innocuous. I would have found that to be more interesting. They're definitely doing a lot of prisoner's dilemma, and that's not a very strong prisoner's dilemma. So I feel like they're adding a lot of little stuff, and then I feel like everyone is fairly whiny and complainy and angsty, and maybe it's just because I am older than all of them. So maybe this is old man Tom talking. I don't know. I just was not. I'm not like. There's very few people that I'm really rooting for, and there's a lot of people who are just, they yell at each other. Also, the games aren't. It seems like the games are mostly reprints. I do sit there and think, whenever I watch any of these shows, I think, I wonder how well I would do if I was on the show. You know, people think that. That's why these shows do well. And man, I would get murdered this year because there's so much swimming involved. And while I can swim, I would be so tired swimming and then climbing a ladder or something. And they swim in almost every challenge. I'm like, ugh. I'd rather the challenges you don't swim. I do yell a lot during the puzzle ones because I feel like that's an obvious answer. Oh, and they're also doing this side thing where they like quickly show you something and they're like, play along at home. They're really not. I'm amazed at how simple the puzzles are. You know, maybe I don't consider myself to be especially bright in that area, but they're really, I don't even look at them now. It's like, come on, are these puzzles for kids? Is Survivor for kids watching? I don't think so. Survivor has made a lot of changes over the years, and some of the stuff I don't really care for that they've changed for. Some of it I find interesting, you know, but I'll tell you the one thing, though, that I do sympathize with. When someone sits there and they're super emotional and they're upset and they're angry and everything, I really get that. Because I think about this, because I know when I go on I'm going on these long things, answers questions, and I apologize. But when I go to a convention and I'm there for a while and I'm really tired and really exhausted, and I'm just on, I don't know how, you feel like you're on a razor's edge of emotional things. You know, if I call my family, I'm like, suddenly, I almost sometimes feel like crying. I'm like, wait, it was like 2 days. It's just, I really miss them. A real, you know, in that moment of, and so on this island where they're hungry and they're away from their families and they're there and it's terrible circumstances, etc. I can see how they're all super emotional. So I give them that cut. The angsty part is where they, I don't like on Survivor where they, and I don't like this in any show, like, I think this year's America's Got Talent winner was my least favorite finale show ever, because in my opinion, the winner of America's Got Talent was the 10th talented person of the 10, and won solely based on backstory / audience felt bad for them, and I'm tired of that. My kids are even yelling about this. They'll show someone from America's Got Talent, and they do this backstory. My daughter's yelling, "Who cares? Are you good at the show?" And it seems like America's Got Talent, the talent part is becoming secondary to this sad backstory, and they're trying to bring this in Survivor too a bit. And it's like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I can sympathize with your sad backstory, but when I do reviews for games, I don't mention, by the way, my son died 10 years ago. Why would I do that? I shouldn't do that to make you watch my reviews. You should want to watch my reviews, hopefully, because we do a good job on the reviews. All right, I'm getting very, very, very mixed up here. All right, let's see here. What is that funky-haired pop behind you? What? This guy? One Punch Man! Who were the other people at the Spectacular? Camilla, etc. Who was at the Spectacular? Ruel has his own, YouTube channel and does stuff. So we brought him in. And Sam Healy used to be on the Dice Tower. And Camilla's in our gaming group and is now also part-time here at the Dice Tower. Played 2400 this weekend too. My favorite of the series so far. Interesting. Interesting. Will you do unsang gems by each letter like Zia's doing? I've already done the alphabet, man. How's it determined if a game comes back into print? Well, sales for the most part. There are some games that are popular and look great, but you never see them after the initial printing. There's other factors that go into it for sure and stuff, and some games are really expensive to make. But popularity, again, can be really deceptive. You'll be like, this game is super popular. How do we know that? Well, it's highly rated on Board Game Geek. That doesn't mean it's popular. There's a difference. Hi, Tom. Are you planning on doing any news show series with other content creators, such as the one you did with Rado around the world? I got something up my sleeve that I can't talk about yet, and I will be announcing it probably in December, possibly. But for the most part, no. I'm pretty happy with the Dice Tower, the group that we have that's part of the Dice Tower, and I'm really happy to be working and doing things with them. So that's kind of what I'm sticking with at this point. Nothing against the content creators. There's a lot of great content creators out there, but I'm busy enough doing stuff with the gang. I generally want to say thank you for not doing clickbait with your titles. Well, I'm opposed to clickbait in many ways, but we do it sometimes, especially with top 10 lists. Top 10 games that murdered other games meant top 10 games that replaced other games, but I used the word murdered because I thought it was funnier and more people might click the video. There's a bit of that. But yeah, I get the whole clickbait. What I don't want to do is I don't want to do clickbait that lies to you. So the clickbait that I just did, I think works well because I said top 10 games that murdered other games, and it's actually top 10 games that replaced, so it's an exaggerational thing. I just don't want to do 10 reasons why Catan sucks. And then you come in and I go, reason number 1, it sells so well and it's all I want to play anymore. It's taking over my life. Oh, so this is actually top 10 reasons Catan is good. You got me. Yeah, that I'm not, that's bait and switch. I don't like bait and switch. Top 10 games you need to mentally prepare for. There's a lot of games like that. That's an interesting top 10 list. Maybe we'll do that in the future. Did we ever clear out, find a use for it? We never used the shed. Never. It was nasty, and it was creepy, and it's outside, and we had no, I would have to rebuild that whole shed. And in fact, Hurricane Irma ripped a hole in the side of it anyway, so it never got used. I am considering at some point putting some sort of indoor shed thing out back here so that we can use it to store things, but yeah. What do you think about Disney Plus possibly changing Ms. Marvel's power so that she's more like Green Lantern instead of being stretchy? Ah, that's the first I've heard of it, but I don't know. I don't necessarily know if I care about the powers as much, and I would assume they're going to change your powers because of the Fantastic Four. But Marvel Cinematic Universe has done pretty well so far, so I'm not going to complain. Do you think a lightsaber can cut through Captain America's shield? I'm pretty sure Mark Hamill and Chris Evans already answered that one online, and you know that, or you wouldn't have asked me the question. What constitutes as a Euro game? A game from Europe? Not really. We talk now about it being more of a style of game, a game in which there is, victory points. People are not attacking each other. You're working towards a goal. I'm not going to go into more detail than that because I would have to really sit and think how my definitions of it are. I think I did a definitions video, and it might be in there. Opinions on a new studio after using it for a while? It's fantastic. We're really glad to be here. For Dice Hour Retreat, do you have an attendance number as a sweet spot? Well, we have 200 right now. That is our sweet spot. I was talking to someone, I said, I think you could go to 400. We're not planning on doing that right now. But I think you could go to 400 and it wouldn't feel overly huge. I'm pretty confident on that. But right now it's at around 200. What do you think the biggest issues facing the board game industry right now are? Oh, for my word, it's shipping and the increased costs of everything. You're going to see game prices skyrocket, folks. Any guilty pleasure shows at the moment? Not... The Floor is Lava, actually, my son asked me the other day, he's like, why don't we watch more of The Floor is Lava? I was like, well, because it started being the same. In fact, I watched a few episodes, or I think I only watched one episode of that new Frogger show. My word, who cares? It was like The Floor is Lava all over again. I like these shows, but, and Wipeout and things like that, I just don't know how you can keep watching them because they're the same thing over and over and over again. I want a game show that feels different and unique and interesting. Or if it is the same, like let's say Jeopardy, the questions are different, right? It's not just the same thing over and over again. Like The Floor is Lava, they would bring people down and they went through the same course. And after the fourth episode of this, I mean, they like think, what, 3 different courses? I just got tired of seeing people go through the same course over and over. It's just not that interesting to me. But that's just me. No, guilty pleasure for me would just be going back and watching a show that I've already seen before, just kind of doing something else with it in the background. I don't think I've been here for a Q&A since lockdown. I work from home and watch like 95% less content I used to while I work. Not sure why. Well, we're glad you're here today. The sob story is why I've stopped watching many of the competition shows. So overdone. I agree. So, but fortunately, what we do, and this might be bad, so when we watch America's Got Talent and they introduce the characters, we watch their first introduction, when they first introduce the character, just so we know a little bit more about them. After that, we fast forward every time. We're there to watch the competition, not watch a package about their background life that gets increasingly sadder. And a few things always bug me about these. First of all, I hate when the people stand there and say, you know, when they're in the final 10, they're like, never in my wildest dreams did I imagine myself here. And they all are lying. Because when you enter the competition, your dream is to be standing there. And this, never in my wildest dreams did I imagine this. Yes, in your wildest dreams, you imagined more than that. So that's one thing. And then the other, what's the other thing that, oh, when they're like, everyone is doing it for somebody else. And you know, like, oh man, this $1 million would change my life. No kidding. You know, no kidding, $1 million would change your life. And they're like, I'm doing this for my mother. Yeah, but you're also doing it for you. That just doesn't sound as good on the camera. Maybe I'm getting too sardonic here. Any plan to increase content for Kickstarter projects? No. I like early reviews, back it or not, I really think crowd surfing is not enough. No, crowd surfing is enough. Crowd surfing, and then we have Mark Street doing Kickstarter previews, and then we do some playthroughs here. I already feel like we're doing about as much Kickstarter content as I'd like, because there is not enough content being done post-Kickstarter. And you know I know this because I'll get a game in, a Kickstarter game, and I'll look at it, and I'll play it and stuff, and then I'll think, oh, I wonder what other people think of it. I'll go watch reviews, and I go, and there's like 10 videos on the game, and every single one is a preview. Every single one. Most of the reviews are previews. Half the ratings for these games. Now, that's because you say, well, it just came out. I get that. But by and large, the reviewing community is focusing on games pre-Kickstarter. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not criticizing people who do that. I'm just saying very few people focus on the post-Kickstarter part of gamingdom. And so we do. We really focus on that. And I think it's really important. The more pre-Kickstarter stuff we do, the less post-Kickstarter. Don't you want to know if the game is actually good or not? We'll tell you afterwards. Well, in our opinion, obviously. Have you played War Room by Larry Harris? I have not. If not, would you consider trying it out? Probably not. It's just too gigantic and huge. What are our most popular shows on the Dice Tower? By far, top 10s. And then right behind that is Crowd Surfing. Those are the two most popular shows that we do. Then everything else is a mixed bag. Foursquare's reviews are pretty big. Why do you and Mike hate Root Beer Float? He is the best marble. You only watch the races. I know Root Beer Float behind the scenes. Have I played the newest graphic novel adventures? No, I have not. Are they out yet? I don't think they are. Top 10 Spider-Man villains. Ooh, now that's a good one. So let me think about that. While I'm thinking about that, Loopy says I should mention the contest. And that is a great, great thing. So hang on one second. So if you want to win a $10 gift certificate to Game Nerds, you can enter our contest. So today is the 25th. So to enter this contest, you need to email us at contest@dicetower.com. In the subject line, put the word pumpkin. Hey, it's thematic. Pumpkin. And we'll pick one winner to get a $10 gift certificate to Game Nerds. Game Nerds is a fantastic online gaming store. Check them out. They always have great games for great prices, great selection. Man, and they got a daily deal every day. So just email us, put in the subject line pumpkin, and then the subject and in the body say pumpkin spice, good or bad. Please say bad, because it's true. I'm kidding. If you like pumpkin spice, that's fine. All I'm saying is if pumpkin spice was that great, it would be out all year round. Top 10 Spider-Man villains. Whew. Wow. You know, I'm just going to talk about some villains because putting them in order, you know, they did different things at different times. I think the Jackal, I know everyone hates the clone storyline, but the Jackal would be in the top 10 for me. The Jackal, Mr. Negative, that's 2. I'm not putting Carnage in there. I don't know. He's 2. Kane, of course. I really like Kane. Dr. Octopus, just the brilliance of what he does. So that's 4. Sandman. I always like Sandman. So that's 5. And by the way, I'm talking comic books here. So other Spider-Man villains. Green Goblin is such a toss-up. I don't know. I'll just put him in there because he's offered some really great things. So that he would be 6. I want to put Tony Stark. I will. I'll put Iron Man in there for 7. This is comic books, Civil War. Spider-Man villains, going through them. No. I almost want to put J. Jonah Jameson. I will for 8 because he causes Spider-Man a lot of grief in the comics. Kingpin, 9. I know Kingpin is more often with Daredevil, but he messes with Spider-Man too. Not Mysterio, not Rhino, definitely not Vulture. Not Venom or Carnage. Oh, I'll just look it up online here. Spider-Man villains. All right, let's look at them. No. Not Prowler. Oh, Lizard's pretty good. I do like Lizard. And again, I'm going by Kraven's pretty cool. Looking through these. Shocker, no. Prowler, Silver Sable. Wow, he has a lot of villains. So I'm going through these and looking. Molten Man, Looter, Silvermane, Schemer, Hammerhead, the Human Fly, Spot, Demo Goblin. There's all the goblins, Hobgoblin, all that. Tombstone, no, not really. Shriek, Boomerang, Boomerang, I don't even know who that is. Doppelganger, I like that. The Sinister Six, of course, is really interesting to me. Well, anyway, let's move on here. Let's see. Why is it that your solo reviews have approved, excellence, and the like, versus Foursquare's has actual numerical ratings? All my solo reviews have numerical ratings. I just don't put it in the review. They're always in week in review. So at the end of the week, you can see, in fact, we can review publish this morning, you can see all my ratings. I also keep a pretty close, I'm sometimes a couple months behind, but I keep a very accurate thing of my ratings, and this especially is true because I do look back. So I go back and redo my ratings as time goes by. The reason I put the ratings in Foursquares is because we're all there at the same time, so it's a good way to compare our different thought patterns to each other. Would you ever consider ditching the bacon close-up on Board Game Breakfast for your Muslim vegetarian fans? No, because I eat bacon, and I don't think that me showing it there is insulting in any way. I don't understand why it would be, because if I go down that route, pretty soon there will be no intro. You know, should I not show the milk pouring for people who can't have milk? And so, yeah, no, I'm not gonna do that. That seems a little odd. Let's see. Moving down. Am I planning a Squid Game for board games? I am not. Do you think escape rooms help the board game industry or vice versa? I don't know that it helped. Maybe, but there's no way to know that for sure. I'm reviewing the Fantastic Factories expansions next week or this week. I'm not sure. I already reviewed it, so it's on the schedule somewhere. It's coming. The color difference issues with the cards. So there's two things with that. First of all, they replaced the cards from one of the two so that the colors match. So I didn't have that problem. And I think they're doing that. They're doing it for the base. They either replaced the cards in the base game or the expansion. I don't remember. But either way, they match. Secondly, I've never understood why this matters in some games. In some games, it definitely matters. Like if you're sitting there going, I'm going to steal a card from your hand. And, ooh, that's an expansion card. I can tell, so I'll take that one. But in a game where there's a big pile of cards in the middle of the table, and honestly, the Fantastic Factories ones, it was a lighter shade of blue and a darker shade of blue, and I only noticed when I was looking for it. But if I'm going to draw a card off the top of the deck, and I'm like, oh, I'm not drawing that one. It's an expansion. It has literally no effect on gameplay. None. So who cares? That's kind of my opinion on that. Yes, it would be nice if they were perfectly color matched. It's really difficult sometimes with companies. The printer changes or something changes, and then the game gets printed, and you're like, oh, the colors don't match exactly. And then the consumers scream, and it's just, it matters sometimes. A way bigger issue is when the cards are slightly bigger or smaller, which happens sometimes too, and then you're holding your hand and they don't shuffle well. But when the colors are slightly off, unless it really matters, let's say we're playing a social deduction game, and I'm like, that's one of the expansions, so you're the werewolf. Other than that, it doesn't really matter. I would not let my kids watch Squid Game. I don't even know why we're even having that discussion. When you preview play a pre-release Kickstarter project, do you feel an obligation to be more positive? Well, sure. If we're doing a playthrough, we're going to be positive as we play that game. And I can do that with any game. It could be the worst game ever, and I can have a good time playing it because that's real life. When I'm playing games here with the people in the studio, if we don't like a game, you know, when we're playing off camera, we'll definitely say this game isn't very good, but you still have a good time playing the game. You get into it, you know, just the way it is. But then, you know, of course, when we do our review, we'll give you our full opinion. I'm doing one top 10 list per Q&A. So I know some people were asking for more. Let's see here. Excluding party games, what's the most players you've ever had during a board game? Well, probably 11 for Panic on Wall Street, even though some people might consider that a party game. I once had somebody, this was 7-8 years ago, somebody was doing a party for somebody's birthday, and it was in Miami, and so they took them to a Miami Heat game, and they did various things, and one of the things was bringing that person to my house to play games, and I was like, yeah, sure, that sounds fun. So they came by, and there was 11 people total, and I was like, oh, what do we do for 11? Oh, I know. Panic on Wall Street handles 11 players, and that's what we did, and it worked really well. There's a few other ones too, but party games have obviously gone much bigger. After that top 10, do you still think it was a good idea to do a Z is wrong top 10? It seemed you had more disagreements amongst yourselves. Yes, I don't know what some people seem to want us to dislike each other. We thought that doing that top 10 was fun. Of course, we're not. When I watch a roast, I can't watch them very much. But I've seen some of the roasts of different comedians. I can't watch them because they're so harsh, they're so mean, they're so nasty, and everyone's like laughing. And I'm thinking, wow, some of the stuff that was said is just vile and mean and terrible. I don't want these top 10 is wrong to be that way. These are fun. These are we're friends with each other. We don't think it was a mistake. First of all, I mean, Z obviously knew we were doing it, approved of it. And, you know, and you got to be careful doing these things because you don't want to be insulting, but we also want to be funny. And so I don't feel like it was a failure, but also I don't think people like, oh, you guys messed up. No, not particularly. Yeah, I don't know if I loved the scenario where Doc Ock took over Spider-Man's body. I mean, I thought it was interesting. It definitely made for an interesting Spider-Man, you know, the Ultimate Spider-Man thing. I don't know how I feel about that. Still, now I wonder what I think about that. It was an interesting storyline. Let's see. I like your Kickstarter post-launch reviews, but the problem is the game is not available anymore. Whoa, that's actually not true. You said, for example, you love X-Men, but half the content is unavailable. So I see what you're saying for X-Men, but you could say the same thing for the Marvel one. I reviewed all that Marvel stuff, and then guess what? It was all available in the next Kickstarter, the X-Men one. So how do you know the X-Men one? There won't be more stuff available later on. But besides, when I did that X-Men review, I reviewed the X-Men United, and that is going to be available. It's going to be in stores. So you definitely, actually, I know it's in stores because it was in stores. You can get it. So, and then sometimes we review stuff, and you're right, it isn't available. But still, I think that's an important thing. And the vast majority of the games we review are available. Besides, again, the problem with the huge amount of pre-Kickstarter reviews is they are overwhelmingly, gushingly positive. They're overwhelming, just massive positive things. And then all the quotes in the Kickstarter are massively positive. And I'm like, woo. And I'm starting to struggle with this because I just over the weekend played a Kickstarter that did very well, had very gushingly positive previews for it, and this game is terrible. like 6 ways from Sunday. When I do the review of this game, I have almost nothing good to say about it. And I just feel like maybe it was better before it went on Kickstarter because I'm missing it. But nobody mentioned these things before the Kickstarter happened. So how was people to know? And the problem is I don't know a solution for this. It would be great if there was someone out there who reviewed every game that was on Kickstarter and said good or bad. The problem is if they said it was bad, you know, Kickstarter companies would probably stop sending them the games, likely. And B, it would just be a horrible job because there's so many terrible Kickstarters out there. Alrighty, just a few more minutes here, folks. I'm going to end a few minutes early because Board Game Breakfast is at 9 and we need to get ready for that. How many games would you have in your personal collection if it wasn't for the Dice Tower Library? 350. I know this because that's what I had before the Dice Tower Library. Moving down. I see the One Punch Man Funkos. Who's the fan at the office? That would be me. I love One Punch Man. I've noticed a tonal shift from your first few 24-hour streams to now. You all used to be less forgiving and more upfront about your disdain for games. Well, first of all, now we pick and choose our games more. So that's some of the mistakes I made in the past with the 24-hour marathons is I made people play games that they didn't like. Well, why would you do that? I mean, it still might happen. You might see that happen this week. But this week we're just testing games out. But I would say, I love this game. Z and Sam, you should play it. And then they didn't like it. I don't think it makes for good video. When someone just hates on a game and someone else loves the game, that clash doesn't look very good. Any movies you traditionally like to watch each Halloween season? No. I don't really like horror movies. I did watch The Muppets, the new Haunted Mansion, or whatever. I hated it. I hated it. I love The Muppets. But boy, did I hate it. First of all, it focuses on Gonzo and Pepe the Shrimp. And Gonzo and Pepe the Shrimp are background characters. Gonzo has been in the front before. And they sidelined almost all the rest of the Muppets. Who cares? I don't know who thought this was a good show. I didn't like it at all. Is the idea of doing an international cruise feasible? It's financially would blow us up. I mean, we'd have to fly there, get all the games there. It'd be crazy. Do you remember the first game you bought? It was at a thrift store for sure because the thrift store had tons of games, but I wouldn't remember what it was. The first one I paid for, I mean, my parents bought me games. The first game I bought might have been Gettysburg from Avalon Hill. Maybe. I don't remember. Let's see here. What do you think to the Patchwork Games rethemed to Christmas and Halloween? Is right to be exactly the same game just with a reskin, or is it a cash cow? It's a cash cow for sure, but at the same time, well, I'm actually reviewing the Halloween one. That one's also done and in the can and coming up in the next week and a half or so. I think it's a cash cow. I mean, why not? It's a cash grab. But if it works, then what am I supposed to say? It's a different theme. People might buy it who like it. Also, the Halloween edition had like 18 tiles or 16 tiles that they rebalanced. Alrighty, folks. Well, that's it for now. And I apologize I didn't get to all the questions. And I'll be back in 5 minutes for Board Game Breakfast. So just jump over to that live stream, and we'll be talking about whatever we're talking about, Board Game Breakfast. And I'll see you there. Thanks so much for your questions. So Board Game Breakfast at 9, and at 10, we'll play it live. See ya. See ya.